Hey, this is Paula Hines Lonergan. Time's up for me to be silent. And in this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the subject of anger and how anger factors into childhood sexual abuse. It does definitely factor in, the person that was abused may have that feeling of anger, and it may be directed toward themselves, maybe someone else. But in regards to anger, I wanted to share a thought in the book, The Courage to Heal, that really ultimately is the guideline on who anger ultimately needs to be directed to, even if other people and things factor in. I'm going to read it verbatim. It's on page 149 of The Courage to Heal, and it says, "The abuser always, and that's in italics, holds the ultimate responsibility for sexual abuse and thus deserves your legitimate anger." And that's very important to understand, um, because sometimes, we may be, as victims, as survivors, we may be kind of angry at other people, but the anger needs to be ultimately against our abuser. But doesn't mean anger doesn't factor in, for other things or people for different reasons. I mean, I know of women who have gone into adulthood, maybe abused, by someone, uncle or father, and remain angry, at their moms, because they feel the moms didn't protect them. In fact, the Courage to Heal kind of gives a couple of reasons. It says, if your mother did not listen to you when you tried to tell her, um, if she did not leave an abusive or alcoholic man, did not offer warmth, attention, understanding that you needed. These are reasons why um, people may be angry at their mothers, you know, and you have a legitimate right to hold her responsible. That's a very interesting statement there. And it says, yet you may find this difficult, you know. I mean, the thing about anger, the Courage to Heal book says about it, it says on page number 146, anger is a feeling, and feelings themselves do not violate anyone. It's important to make the distinction between feelings of the feeling of angry and the expression of that anger. When you acknowledge your anger, then you have the freedom to choose if and how you want to express it. Okay, so I appreciate the thought. Anger is a feeling. I mean, like, there's other emotions, that we may feel. But I mean, just because we have the anger doesn't mean we're going to act on it. But one of the things that may be common with children that have been sexually abused is to turn the anger in on themselves. Okay, on page number 145 of The Courage to Heal, it talks about anger, and it says, anger turned inward can lead to depression and self-destructive behavior. And I've heard that many times, that depression is anger turned in. And I've always felt that, to a certain degree. So, I mean, a person can be angry at themselves, angry at their parents. Ultimately, if you're abused, anger at the abuse is where it needs to be directed. But if you have anger because of other reasons, acknowledge that, and then try to work through it. Okay, the Courage to Heal book continues. It says, directing your anger where it belongs. It says anger does not have to be suppressed or destructive. Instead, it can be a healthy response to a violation and a powerful healing energy. It is transformative to direct your anger accurately and appropriately at those who violated you. And so instead of turning that anger inside, turn it to those who it should be directed to those who caused the pain. But then it continues there. It says, When you're feeling angry, you need to honor that. Once again, anger is just that feeling. Anger is the feeling. And ultimately, it talks about ways that, a person can do the anger released work. And that's mentioned, on page 150 and 151. It says, for some survivors, it is empowering to release anger in physical ways. Pounding pillows, yelling, tearing up newspaper are safe expressions of long-held rage. I mean, it doesn't involve anybody else. You're not going to hurt yourself or hurt anybody else. I mean, and that's not for everybody, I mean, sometimes getting that physical energy can be beneficial, but like I said, that's definitely not for everybody. It says, although, on page 151, although expressing anger physically like this can be incredibly liberating, it's not for everyone. The purpose of this kind of anger is to work is to move bottled up energy through and out, leaving you with a sense of release and peace. It says, but for some survivors, exercises like these may keep recycling the rage, creating more and more agitation and distress. It's important to learn about yourself so that you can come to know what is and what isn't helpful for you. Now that's interesting. Here we're still going to education and information, knowing ourselves and what's going to help us to work toward our healing and diffusing and working through that anger. It continues. For some survivors, simply acknowledging their anger in a clear way is enough. Okay. It continues here. It says, saying words out loud to a sympathetic listener or simply writing them in your journal can be an effective way to express your anger. So now, isn't this really good? Helping us to see how we can work through our anger and hopefully diffuse it. Now, it's interesting because when I was in my early 20s, I had already moved from home. But, after my uncle had molested, or I'm sorry, not molested me, he pinched my breast when I was 19, and I pretty much had a nervous breakdown. I kind of went through this transition. Yet depression factored in very much into my life at that point, but I wasn't in a place where I was going to or ready to, express to anyone, especially not my parents, of the history of abuse that I had suffered at the hands of my uncle. So I kind of still kept that bottled in. But I went through this thing with my mom because I just kept having these ongoing feelings. And so I would write my mom letters. Now, a lot of times they say write the letters but don't send them, but I didn't have that wherewithal back then. I would write my mom letters and kind of pour out my heart on all my pains, on all my worries and concern that I had carried through childhood. I mean, the guilt that I had over stealing the 5 cents when I was in kindergarten, other things, that had weighed on me. But I wish I wrote all this stuff down, but I didn't mention the sexual abuse. But after I did that, I was able to see my mother differently. In other words, I guess I didn't have, she didn't carry, I didn't carry for her the weight of accusation, you know. It was like I had cleared myself, cleansed myself. In fact, my mother said she got to the point where she was afraid to even read my letters, but it was something I needed to do. But I got to the point where I was able to accept my mother for what she was at that time, and appreciate what she had done. She did her best with what she had and knew at the time she was raising me, you know. And so my mom and I had a good relationship, you know. I accepted her just as she was, you know, and I didn't carry the load of she didn't protect me, or, you know, you didn't do this for me, you know. I mean, part of it was me, because I never came forward, you know, with, you know, the abuse that I had suffered. But then, you know, but at the same time, it's like I kind of let it go, you know. And sometimes that's a process that even children that weren't sexually abused need to go through in connection to their parents, is realize parents do what they can with what they are and who they are at the time, you know. And a lot of times, if we could go back, we do different, you know, but we can't go back, you know. So when I finally told my mom, you know, in my 40s, what had happened to me during my childhood, you know, she was 100% behind me. And when she said to me, "Oh, Paula, I remember when you were 5 years old, you know, that I walked in the basement and I saw you and my uncle together, sitting close together," but she didn't see anything, you know. But in her mind, she's like, they're sitting awfully close together, you know. Um, but of course, she didn't see anything. You know, it was a fleeting thought. And of course, 50 years ago, we didn't, you know, you just didn't think, you know, she didn't think that could happen. Anyways, but she said that to me. And instead of being angry at her, it kind of confirmed to me that what I had experienced was reality. And I had her support. You know, she believed me. I had her support. I mean, I had worked through all the issues, the mom issues, you know. So, you know, even though she said that to me, I was able to accept it and have peace, you know, peaceful relationship in my heart connected to her, and peaceful relationships with her. And you know, that may be a little bit difficult to understand, but it's the process of working through the anger. And the earlier that you kind of do that in life, you know, in working through not just anger, but anything, you know, in that, you know, may be a load on you, especially in connection with childhood sexual abuse. um, you know, there's a lot of valuable information in the Courage to Heal book. And I'd like to kind of um, end with a thought on page 156. It says here, action using anger as the motivating force is a vital part of healing. If you listen to what your anger is telling you, if you allow it to be a guide, then it becomes a valuable resource moving you toward positive change. You know, so I mean, maybe we grew up saying, "Oh, don't cry, don't be mad, don't get upset, you know, sit up, be good, be quiet," you know, you better wipe that frown off your face. Anyways, all the things we may have heard that are kind of ingrained in our minds. I mean, so anger sometimes is viewed as a quality. No, 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 you have to be accepting and of all things and never feel negative, you know. But it's a human quality, you know. But it is something that, once again, is a feeling, needs to have a sense, needs to be in control, you know, basically, you know, one, so that we don't harm ourselves, but we also don't harm others. Okay, well, what do you think about this? Anger, you know, has anger factored into your feelings in connection to your abuse? Or is anger kind of almost non-existent? You just have no sense of that feeling at all? Um, Let me know. You know, I'm always appreciating feedback and information and even questions if you'd like. My email address is timesupforsilence@gmail.com, or you can put a note. I'm going to try to do this again in the notes section below. Anyways, my name is Paula Hines Lonergan. Time's up for me to be silent. Thanks for watching. Oh, before I forget, like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to do better in saying that, because if I say it, maybe you'll do it. Thanks.